let's talk a little bit about some of the other options out there. Are there any other good options for somebody to use for buying a house? Let's say you're a military member, veteran, surviving spouse, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. So sometimes you might want to compare it to an FHA loan. It's another government-backed loan, and it has very low down payment of just 3.5%, and also typically associated with more lenient credit guidelines, very similar to VA, but you have mortgage insurance. You have two types of mortgage insurance. Again, VA does not.
Okay, sounds good. Now, we can get into all the details of a VA loan, but I think before we go too deep, we should probably ask the most important question. And I think that most important question is, who should buy a house?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a great question. And, one of the terms that it seemed to just define my career is it depends. It
Yeah.
depends on where you are in life. It
Mhm.
depends on whether or not you're ready to buy a home. And there's a lot of reasons why certain people aren't ready, as I'm sure that you can appreciate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think part of the American culture, and there's this understanding that we all have, is I need to own a house.
Mhm.
It's ingrained, and there's a lot of benefits that come with home ownership, but home ownership is a big responsibility. It is often very expensive. Selling a house is expensive. Those transaction costs. But it's also, as you mentioned, where you are in your life. Now, military members, oftentimes we move a lot. We might not be in a duty station for a long time. And if you're not going to be in that house for several years, it might not be a good idea to buy right away. How often or how long should you be in a home, do you think, before it really makes sense to buy versus maybe renting?
Yeah, and that's that's another one I'm gonna say it depends, and it really comes down to what your current life situation is. But for the most part, if you're not going to be in a home for at least 2 or 3 years, ideally past 5 years, you may want to consider a renting option first before diving into home ownership.
I think that's a good rule of thumb. Now, in the military, there are times where you might be at a duty station for 1 or 2 years, especially if you're doing a long-term training, or let's say you're overseas, you're coming back to the States. Any of these major transitions, or if you know you're not going to be in your home station for a long time, it might make sense to live in on-base housing or to rent for a while. Other major life changes where you might consider renting, let's say you're about to get married, you are considering kids but don't have them yet. Uh, you're about to transition out of the military, fresh off of a divorce or other major life change. Maybe there was a death in the family. Those are times where it might make sense to wait a year or two until things kind of stabilize a little bit before you decide, you know what, maybe I need to buy a house. Because one of the things you don't want to do is spend a ton of money, buy a house, and realize, oh, we're going to have kids. Now we need more space. Or, I just got out of the military. I'm going to buy a house here. And then you get a job offer halfway across the nation. And now you've got to go move. And then you've got to sell that house. And those transaction costs, they can really eat into your equity.
Yeah, not to mention that you don't know what the market is going to be like if you do end up having to sell. You
Yeah.
may not be in a seller's market, and you may actually be taking a loss on it, regardless of the transaction costs.
Yeah, I know a lot of people in the military who have PCS. They've moved to another location. They weren't able to sell their house because of where they were in the market. So now they had to become a long distance landlord, often
Hmm.
through no intentional.
Hmm.
Now there are times where you can take that house and rent it out and have somebody pay your mortgage for you, and that can be good. Real estate investing is something that I know a lot of people who do, but you want to do real estate investing intentionally. If
Right.
that's what you want to do, make sure you do that with a plan. But to become an accidental landlord is probably not high on most people's lists.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.